They press, you react. Control changes hands. If they move your state, they move your decisions. Silence ends the transaction. Introduction. Control is not optional. It is the only position worth holding. You live in a world designed to destabilize you. Every notification, every provocation, every demand on your attention. The system wants you reactive, fragmented, emotionally compromised. Because reactive men are weak men, and weak men are easy to control. You have been conditioned to respond immediately, to defend when challenged, to explain when questioned, to react when triggered. You were taught that silence is avoidance, that composure is suppression, that emotional expression is authenticity. All of it is a lie. Reactivity is not strength. It is the illusion of strength. It is what happens when you mistake impulse for agency, when you confuse emotional discharge with power. Real power is cold, measured, unreactive. It is the ability to be provoked and choose stillness, to be insulted and remain unmoved, to be pressured and stay centered. This is not about becoming emotionless. Emotions are data. They tell you what matters, what threatens, what needs attention. But emotions are not commands, they are signals. And signals do not run the operation. You do. The moment you react, you lose. You reveal your trigger, you expose your weakness, you give the other person leverage, and they will use it, again and again, until you learn to stop offering it. This book is not therapy. It is not self-help. It is training. Military-grade discipline for the nervous system, a structured rebuild of your response architecture. You will learn how reactivity destroys authority, how silence creates leverage, how emotional containment becomes dominance, and how to rewire the impulse loops that have been running you since childhood. By the end of this audiobook, you will not be the man who loses his temper, who defends his ego, who collapses under pressure. You will be the man who stays cold when everyone else is burning, the man who controls the room by controlling himself. Nothing outside you moves you without permission. That is the standard. That is the target. That is what you are building. Chapter 1. The Collapse Point. Marcus sits in a meeting. His manager questions his decision in front of the team. The tone is neutral. The words are professional. But Marcus feels the challenge. His heart rate spikes. His jaw tightens. He feels the heat rising in his chest. The impulse to defend is immediate, automatic, overwhelming. He speaks. His voice is sharp, defensive. He explains why his decision was correct. He lists the reasons. He justifies. He counters. The room goes quiet. His manager nods, moves on. But Marcus knows what just happened. He reacted, and everyone saw it. Later, he replays the moment. He realizes his manager was not attacking him. It was a normal question, a clarification. But Marcus treated it like a threat, and now he looks insecure, reactive, weak. This is the collapse point, the moment where stimulus overrides control, where impulse hijacks authority, where the body takes over and the mind shuts down. And it happens because most men do not understand the mechanism. Your brain is wired for survival, not strategy. Deep in your limbic system sits the amygdala, a primitive structure designed to detect threats, to sound alarms, to activate fight or flight before conscious thought has time to intervene. This system kept your ancestors alive. When a predator appeared, hesitation meant death. Reaction meant survival. But the modern world does not have predators. It has emails, meetings, conversations, conflicts, social dynamics. And your amygdala cannot tell the difference. When someone challenges you, your amygdala interprets it as a threat. It floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline. It shuts down your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, planning, impulse control. You are now operating on autopilot, reactive, emotional, compromised. This is not a character flaw. This is neurobiology. but it is also a liability. Because in the modern world, the person who stays calm wins. The person who reacts loses. Every single time. When you defend yourself emotionally, you signal insecurity. When you raise your voice, you signal loss of control. When you justify, you signal uncertainty. You think you are standing your ground. You are actually revealing your collapse point. And people notice. Example 1. You are in a conversation. Someone disagrees with you. Your first instinct is to argue, to prove them wrong, to defend your position. You engage, you escalate, and by the end, you have damaged the relationship over a disagreement that did not matter. You reacted. You lost. Example 2. Someone insults you, subtly, indirectly. You feel the sting. You want to respond, to put them in their place. So you do. You fire back, and now you are in a fight you did not need to be in. Because you could not let it sit. You reacted. You lost. Example 3. You are under pressure at work. Deadlines, demands, criticism. You feel overwhelmed. You snap at someone. You send a sharp email. You create tension where there did not need to be any. Because you could not contain your stress. You reacted. You lost. Reactivity is not expression. It is leakage. When you react, you are not in control of your output. You are venting, discharging, allowing internal pressure to escape through whatever channel is available. And that leakage costs you. It costs you respect. Because people do not trust reactive men. They see you as unstable, unpredictable, emotionally compromised. It costs you leverage. Because the moment you react, you reveal what moves you. And people use that information against you. It costs you energy. Because every reaction drains you. Every outburst depletes you. Every emotional discharge leaves you weaker than before. Non-reactive men do not have this problem. They feel the same stimuli, the same provocations, the same pressures, but they do not discharge. They contain, and that containment is power. Here is what you do not say. You do not say, "You are wrong." You do not say, "That is not fair." You do not say, "Let me explain." You do not say, "You do not understand." Those are reactive scripts. They signal emotional activation. They reveal loss of control. Here is what you do say. You say nothing. You pause. You breathe. You let the moment sit. Or if you must speak, you say, "I will think about that." You say, "Noted." You say, "I hear you." No defense, no justification, no emotional charge, just acknowledgement, containment, control. Try this. For the next 7 days, track your collapse points. Every time you feel the urge to react, note it. What triggered you? What did you feel? What did you want to say? Then pause. Do not act on the impulse, just observe it. Ask yourself, what would happen if I said nothing? What would happen if I let this moment pass without response? You will feel discomfort, tension, the pressure to discharge. Sit with it. Do not release it. This is the first layer of training, learning to recognize the impulse before it hijacks you. Most men never get past this step, because they never pause long enough to see the mechanism. They are too busy reacting. You are not most men. You are building a different system. The collapse point is where you lose authority, where you hand control to external forces, where you become a function of stimulus instead of a self-directed agent. Every reaction is a small surrender, a moment where something outside you dictated your behavior. And the more you surrender, the weaker you become. But the inverse is also true. Every time you contain the impulse, you strengthen the system. You build the neural pathways that support non-reactivity. You train your nervous system to stay regulated under pressure. This is not about suppression. Suppression is when you push the emotion down and pretend it is not there. That creates internal pressure, resentment, eventual explosion. Containment is different. Containment is when you feel the emotion, acknowledge it, and choose not to act on it. You are not denying the signal. You are deciding it does not require external discharge. That decision is where power lives. You will be tested daily. People will provoke you, challenge you, push your buttons. Not because they are malicious, but because that is what people do. And every time you will have a choice: react and lose, or contain and hold. The man who reacts is predictable, easy to manipulate, easy to destabilize. The man who contains is dangerous, because you cannot move him, you cannot control him, you cannot make him collapse, and that makes him untouchable. Chapter 2. The Impulse Loop. Derek is sitting in traffic. He has been here for 20 minutes. He is going to be late. Again. The car in front of him is not moving. The driver is distracted, looking at their phone, not paying attention. Derek feels the anger building. His hands tighten on the wheel. His jaw clenches. He leans on the horn. Hard, long, aggressive. The other driver does not move. Derek feels the rage spike. He wants to get out of the car. He wants to confront them. He imagines the confrontation. What he would say. How he would make them understand. Then the light changes. The car moves. Derek accelerates. Hard. He cuts around them. He glares as he passes. 5 minutes later, he is still angry. His heart is still racing. His body is still flooded with adrenaline. He did not solve anything. He did not get there faster. He just burned energy reacting to something he could not control. This is the impulse loop, and it runs on autopilot until you dismantle it. The impulse loop is a 3-stage cycle: trigger, activation, discharge. Stage 1, trigger. Something external happens: a comment, a delay, a challenge, a rejection. Your brain registers it as a threat, real or perceived. It does not matter. The system activates either way. Stage 2, activation. Your amygdala fires. Stress hormones flood your bloodstream. Cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. Your heart rate increases, your breathing shallows, your muscles tense, your prefrontal cortex goes offline. You are now in reactive mode. Stage 3, discharge. The pressure builds. You need to release it, so you snap. You argue, you send the message, you slam the door, you honk the horn, you discharge the energy externally, and for a moment you feel relief. The pressure is gone, you vented, you expressed, you acted, but here is what actually happened. You reinforce the loop. Every time you complete the cycle, you strengthen the neural pathway. You train your brain that this is the correct response to stimulus. You make the loop faster, more automatic, harder to interrupt. Over time, the threshold lowers. Smaller things trigger you. The activation happens faster. The discharge becomes more frequent. You become a reactive system, not a controlled agent. The impulse loop is not conscious. You do not decide to get angry. You do not choose to snap. It happens before you realize it is happening. This is because the loop operates below the level of conscious thought. It is a survival circuit, designed for speed, not accuracy. Your ancestors needed this. When a threat appeared, there was no time to think, no time to analyze. The body had to act, immediately. But you do not live in that world anymore. The threats you face are not physical. They are social, professional, psychological, and the impulse loop is not equipped to handle them. When you react to a comment the same way your ancestors reacted to a predator, you create problems. You escalate conflicts, you damage relationships, you lose credibility, and you do it over and over. Because the loop is automatic. The only way to break it is to interrupt it, to insert conscious control between activation and discharge. This is not easy, because by the time you notice the activation, the discharge is already in motion. The anger is already rising. The words are already forming. But it is possible, and it is the only way forward. Example 1. Someone criticizes your work. You feel the defensiveness rise. Your first instinct is to explain, to justify, to argue. That is the impulse. If you act on it, you complete the loop. You react, you discharge, and you reinforce the pattern. Instead, you pause, you breathe, you say, "I will consider that." You interrupt the loop, you do not discharge. The energy stays contained, the loop weakens. Example 2. You are in an argument. The other person says something that feels unfair. You feel the urge to counter, to escalate, to win. That is the impulse. If you act on it, the argument intensifies, the loop completes. Instead, you go silent. You let their words sit. You do not engage. You interrupt the loop. The energy dissipates. You stay in control. Example 3. You receive bad news. A rejection, a setback, a failure. You feel the frustration building. You want to complain, to vent, to discharge the emotion onto someone else. That is the impulse. If you act on it, you spread the negativity. You complete the loop. Instead, you sit with it. You process it internally. You do not externalize. You interrupt the loop. You contain the emotion. You preserve your energy. The key to breaking the impulse loop is the pause. The pause is the space between trigger and response. It is the moment where you have the opportunity to intervene, to choose, to act with intention instead of reflex. Most people skip the pause entirely. They go straight from trigger to discharge. Stimulus to reaction. No gap, no choice, no control. But when you insert the pause, everything changes. The pause does not have to be long. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, just enough time to notice what is happening, to recognize the activation, to decide whether discharge serves you. Most of the time, it does not. Here is what you do not do. You do not try to suppress the activation. You do not tell yourself to calm down. You do not fight the impulse. That creates internal resistance. It makes the pressure worse, and eventually, you explode. Here is what you do. You acknowledge the activation, you notice it, you name it. I am angry, I am frustrated, I am activated. Then you breathe, deep, slow, controlled, in through the nose for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, out through the mouth for 6 counts. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It begins to counteract the stress response. It brings your prefrontal cortex back online. You do not discharge, you regulate. Try this. For the next 7 days, practice the 3-second pause. Every time you feel the impulse to react, stop. Do not speak. Do not act. Just pause. Count to 3. Breathe. Notice what you are feeling. Then decide. Is this reaction necessary? Will it improve the situation? Or is it just discharge? If it is just discharge, do not do it. Let the impulse pass. Contain the energy. If action is necessary, respond consciously, not reactively. This will feel unnatural at first. The impulse will push hard. Your body will want to discharge. Sit with the discomfort. Do not give in. Over time, the pause becomes automatic. The loop weakens. You regain control. The impulse loop is reinforced by repetition. Every time you react, you make the loop stronger. But the inverse is also true. Every time you interrupt the loop, you weaken it. This is neuroplasticity. The brain rewires based on behavior. If you stop completing the cycle, the pathway degrades. The connection weakens. The impulse loses power. But this takes time. The loop has been running for years, decades. It will not disappear overnight. You will slip. You will react. You will complete the loop. That is expected. The goal is not perfection. The goal is reduction. Fewer reactions, longer pauses, more control. Every successful interruption is progress. Every moment of containment is a win. You are not trying to eliminate the impulse. You are trying to stop acting on it. And that is entirely within your control. Most men go their entire lives controlled by the impulse loop. They react to everything. They discharge constantly. They live at the mercy of external stimuli. And they wonder why they feel powerless, why people do not respect them, why they cannot build anything stable. Because reactivity is instability, and instability repels success. The men who win are not the ones who never feel the impulse. They are the ones who feel it and do not act on it. They contain, they regulate, they stay cold. And that coldness is not weakness, it is the highest form of strength, because it means nothing external can make you move. Nothing can make you collapse. Nothing can make you discharge. You are self-contained, self-regulated, self-controlled, and that makes you untouchable. Chapter 3. The pause protocol. Ryan is in a heated conversation with his business partner. They disagree on a major decision. The tension is high. His partner says something that feels like a personal attack. Ryan feels the anger spike. His body tenses. His mind races with counter-arguments. He opens his mouth to respond, then he stops. He does not speak. He does not move. He just pauses. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. His partner looks at him, waiting, expecting the fight. Ryan takes a breath, deep, controlled. He feels the activation in his body, the heat, the pressure, but he does not discharge. He says, "I need a minute." Then he walks away. His partner is confused, maybe frustrated, but Ryan does not care. He is not playing the reactive game anymore. He walks outside. He breathes. He lets the activation pass. 5 minutes later, he is calm, regulated, clear. He goes back inside. He addresses the issue calmly, strategically, without emotion. The conversation shifts. They find a solution. The partnership stays intact. This is the pause protocol, and it is the most powerful tool you will ever learn. The pause protocol is a structured interruption system. It has 3 stages: recognition, regulation, response. Stage 1, recognition. You notice the activation. You feel the anger, the frustration, the defensiveness. You recognize that you are entering reactive mode. This is the most critical step, because most men never get here. They go straight from trigger to reaction. They skip awareness entirely. Recognition requires internal monitoring. You have to be paying attention to your body, your breath, your thoughts, your emotional state. When your heart rate increases, you notice. When your jaw clenches, you notice. When your thoughts start spinning, you notice. You do not judge it. You do not fight it. You just notice it. This creates a micro gap, a split second of awareness, and in that gap, you have the opportunity to intervene. Stage 2. Regulation. You do not discharge. You regulate. You bring your nervous system back under control. The fastest way to do this is through breath. Controlled breathing activates the vagus nerve. It signals to your brain that you are safe. It begins to shut down the stress response. Inhale through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Exhale through your mouth for 6 counts. Repeat. Do this until your heart rate slows, until the tension in your body releases, until your mind clears. This is not suppression. You are not pushing the emotion down. You are metabolizing it, processing it, allowing it to pass through without external discharge. Stage 3. Response. Once you are regulated, you decide whether to respond, and if so, how. Most of the time, no response is necessary. The situation does not require your input. The provocation does not deserve your energy. You let it go. You move on. You stay contained. But if a response is necessary, you respond consciously, not reactively. You choose your words. You control your tone. You act with intention. This is the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is automatic. Responding is deliberate. One weakens you, the other strengthens you. Example 1. You are in a meeting. Someone challenges your idea. You feel the defensiveness rising. Your first instinct is to argue, to defend, to prove them wrong. Instead, you pause, you breathe, you recognize the activation, you regulate, then you respond. I appreciate the feedback. Let me think about that. You stayed in control. You did not react, you won. Example 2. Someone insults you, publicly. You feel the anger spike. Your body wants to retaliate, to put them in their place. Instead, you pause. You say nothing. You let the insult sit in the air. You regulate. You walk away. Later, you decide the insult does not deserve your attention. You let it go. You stayed in control. You did not react. You won. Example 3. You receive criticism at work. It feels unfair, inaccurate. You want to defend yourself, to explain, to correct. Instead, you pause, you breathe, you recognize the activation, you regulate, then you respond. Thank you for the feedback. I will review this and follow up. You stayed in control. You did not react. You won. The pause protocol is not about avoiding conflict. It is about controlling how you enter conflict. When you react, you enter from a position of weakness. You are emotionally compromised. Your thinking is clouded. Your behavior is impulsive. When you pause and regulate, you enter from a position of strength. You are calm, clear, strategic. You can see the situation accurately. You can choose the most effective response. You can act with precision instead of impulse. This makes you dangerous because most people are reactive. They escalate. They lose control. They make mistakes. You do not. You stay cold. You stay sharp. You stay in control. And that gives you a massive advantage. Here is what you do not do. You do not explain why you are pausing. You do not say, I need to calm down. You do not say, I am trying not to react. That signals weakness. It tells the other person they got to you. Here is what you do. You pause without announcement. You breathe without explanation. You regulate silently. If someone asks why you are quiet, you say, I am thinking. Or you say nothing at all. You do not owe anyone access to your internal process. Try this. Practice the pause protocol in low-stakes situations first. When someone says something mildly annoying, pause. Breathe. Regulate. Do not respond immediately. When you feel a small frustration, pause. Breathe. Regulate. Do not discharge. Build the skill in environments where the stakes are low. So when the stakes are high, the protocol is automatic. Over time, increase the difficulty. Practice pausing in more intense situations. In arguments, in confrontations, in high-pressure moments. The more you practice, the stronger the protocol becomes, the faster you can activate it, the more reliable it is under stress. This is not theory. This is training. And like all training, it requires repetition. The pause protocol disrupts the impulse loop at the most critical point, between activation and discharge. Without the pause, the loop completes. You react. You reinforce the pattern. You stay trapped. With the pause, the loop is interrupted. The energy does not discharge. It metabolizes internally. The pattern weakens. This is how you reprogram your nervous system, not by fighting the impulse, but by creating space around it. The impulse will still arise. You will still feel the anger, the frustration, the defensiveness. But you will not act on it. You will pause. You will regulate. You will respond with intention. And over time, the impulse loses its grip. The activation becomes less intense. The need to discharge diminishes. You become naturally non-reactive, not because you suppress, but because you trained a different response. Most men resist the pause. They think it makes them look weak, hesitant, uncertain. But the opposite is true. Reactive men look weak. They are controlled by external stimuli. They cannot regulate their own emotions. They collapse under pressure. Non-reactive men look strong. They are self-controlled, self-regulated, unmoved by provocation. The pause is not weakness, it is dominance, because it signals that you are not at the mercy of the moment. You are not controlled by external forces. You decide when and how to engage, and that decision power is what separates leaders from followers. winners from losers, strong men from weak men. The pause protocol is the foundation of everything else. Without it, you cannot build emotional containment. You cannot develop strategic silence. You cannot become untouchable. But with it, you can. One pause at a time. One breath at a time. One regulated moment at a time. You are building a new system, a system where you control the output, where nothing moves you without permission. That is the standard. That is the goal. That is what you are becoming. Chapter 4. Emotional Containment. Jordan is sitting across from his father. They are having the same argument they have had for years. His father criticizes his career choices, his lifestyle, his priorities. Jordan feels the familiar anger building, the defensiveness, the need to justify himself, to prove his father wrong. In the past, he would have argued. He would have listed his accomplishments. He would have tried to win his father's approval through explanation. But not today. Today, Jordan sits still. He listens. He feels the anger, the frustration, the old wound reopening. But he does not discharge. He lets his father speak. He does not interrupt. He does not defend. He does not explain. When his father finishes, Jordan says, "I hear you." Then he changes the subject. His father looks confused. He was expecting a fight. He got containment instead. Jordan leaves the conversation intact, unshaken. He did not convince his father. He did not change his mind. But he did not collapse either. He contained what his father could not touch. And that made him untouchable. Emotional containment is the ability to feel an emotion without externalizing it, to hold internal pressure without leaking it into your environment. Most men do not have this capacity. They feel something and immediately need to express it, to vent, to discharge, to make someone else carry the weight. This is emotional incontinence, and it destroys authority. When you cannot contain your emotions, you become unpredictable, unstable, a liability. People do not trust you. They do not follow you. They avoid you because they know you will leak. And leaks create mess. Containment is different. Containment means you feel the emotion fully, you acknowledge it, you process it. But you do not make it anyone else's problem. You hold the pressure. You metabolize it internally. You stay regulated. This is not suppression. Suppression is when you push the emotion down and pretend it does not exist. That creates internal buildup, resentment, eventual explosion. Containment is conscious processing. You feel it. You sit with it. You let it move through you. But you do not externalize it. You contain the energy. And in doing so, you preserve your power. The difference between suppression and containment is awareness. Suppression is unconscious. You are avoiding the emotion, denying it, pretending it is not there. Containment is conscious. You are fully aware of the emotion. You are choosing not to discharge it. Suppression creates pressure. Containment releases pressure through internal metabolization. When you suppress, the emotion stays trapped. It builds, it festers, it distorts your behavior in subtle ways. You become passive-aggressive, resentful, bitter. When you contain, the emotion passes. It moves through your system. It does not get stuck. It does not build. It just flows and dissolves. This is why containment is sustainable. Suppression is not. Most men try suppression first. They think they are being strong, disciplined, controlled, but they are just delaying the inevitable. Eventually, the pressure becomes too much, and they explode, they snap, they lose control in a catastrophic way. Then they conclude that emotional control does not work, that it is healthier to express everything, to be authentic, to let it out. But that is also wrong. Because constant discharge is weakness, it means you are controlled by every feeling that arises. The answer is not suppression, and it is not discharge, it is containment. Example 1. You are in a disagreement. The other person says something condescending. You feel the anger rise. Your instinct is to snap back, to put them in their place. Instead, you contain. You feel the anger. You acknowledge it, but you do not act on it. You stay silent. You let the moment pass. The anger metabolizes. You stay in control. Example 2. You receive bad news, a setback, a failure. You feel the frustration building. You want to complain, to vent to someone, to discharge the negative energy. Instead, you contain. You sit with the frustration. You process it internally. You do not spread it. You metabolize it. You stay intact. Example 3. Someone disrespects you publicly. You feel the humiliation, the urge to defend your reputation, to confront them. Instead, you contain. You feel the emotion. You let it sit. You do not react. You process it privately. Later, you decide whether action is necessary. But you do not act from activation. You act from clarity. Containment requires internal space. Most men do not have this. Their internal world is cluttered, chaotic, reactive. They have no room to hold emotion. So it spills out immediately. Building containment capacity means creating internal space. Room to feel without needing to act. Room to process without needing to discharge. This is built through practice, through repeatedly choosing not to externalize. Every time you feel an emotion and choose not to discharge it, you expand your capacity, you build the container. At first, it feels uncomfortable, the pressure is intense. You want to release it, your body is screaming for discharge. But you sit with it, you breathe, you let it move through you. And over time, the container grows. You can hold more. The pressure becomes manageable. The need to discharge weakens. You develop what ancient philosophies called equanimity, the ability to remain stable regardless of internal or external conditions. This is not numbness. This is mastery. Here is what you do not do. You do not vent to release pressure. You do not complain to process emotion. You do not externalize to feel better. Those are coping mechanisms, not solutions. Every time you vent, you reinforce the belief that you cannot hold the emotion on your own, that you need external validation, external processing, external support. This keeps you dependent, weak, reactive. Here is what you do. You sit with the emotion. You feel it fully. You let it be uncomfortable. You breathe through it. You name it. I am angry. I am frustrated. I am hurt. You do not fight it. You do not judge it. You just observe it. And then you let it pass. Because emotions are temporary. They rise, they peak, they fall. If you do not discharge them, they metabolize naturally. They dissolve. This is the internal processing loop, and it is infinitely more powerful than external discharge. Try this. For the next 7 days, practice non-discharge. Every time you feel a strong emotion, do not externalize it. Do not vent. Do not complain. Do not tell someone about it. Just sit with it, feel it, breathe through it. Notice how long it takes to pass. Most emotions peak within 2 to 3 minutes. If you do not feed them with thoughts or discharge them with action, they dissolve quickly. Track this. Write down what you felt, how long it lasted, what happened when you did not discharge. You will discover that most emotions do not require action. They just require space. And the more space you create, the stronger your containment becomes. Containment is what separates boys from men. Boys react to everything. Men contain and choose. Boys need to express every feeling. Men process internally and act strategically. Boys are controlled by their emotions. Men control their emotions. This is not about being emotionless. This is about being self-regulated. You feel everything, but you do not let it run you. You hold it. You process it. You decide what to do with it, and most of the time the answer is nothing. You just let it pass. Because not every emotion deserves action. Not every feeling requires expression. Not every internal experience needs to become external behavior. Containment gives you the power to choose, to discern, to act with precision instead of impulse. The world will test your containment constantly. People will provoke you. Situations will frustrate you. Life will disappoint you. And every time you will feel the pressure, the urge to discharge, to externalize, to make it someone else's problem, but you will not. You will contain, you will hold, you will metabolize, and over time, you will become a closed system, self-sufficient, self-regulated, unmoved by external chaos. Nothing leaks out, nothing destabilizes you, nothing controls you. You are contained, and containment is power. This is not the final stage, but it is the necessary foundation. Without containment, you cannot build strategic silence. You cannot develop untouchable presence. But with it, you can build anything. One contained moment at a time, one unreactive choice at a time, one metabolized emotion at a time. You are becoming untouchable. Chapter 5. Strategic silence. Ethan is in a room full of people. The conversation turns to politics. Someone makes a statement, bold, provocative, designed to get a reaction. Everyone starts talking, arguing, defending their positions. The room gets loud, heated, chaotic. Ethan says nothing. Someone turns to him. "What do you think?" Ethan looks at them calm, unbothered. He says, "I do not have a position on that." The person pushes, "Come on, you must have an opinion." Ethan does not take the bait. He says, "I am not interested in this conversation." The room goes quiet for a moment. Then the conversation shifts. Someone else starts talking. The energy moves on. Ethan stayed silent. He did not engage. He did not defend. He did not explain. And because of that, he remained in control. This is strategic silence, and it is one of the most powerful tools you will ever master. Silence is not passive. Silence is a weapon. Most men do not understand this. They think silence is avoidance, weakness, fear of confrontation. But strategic silence is none of those things. It is the deliberate choice not to engage, not because you cannot, but because engagement does not serve you. When you stay silent, you do several things simultaneously. You refuse to play the game. Most conversations are traps, designed to pull you into reactivity, into defense, into explanation. When you stay silent, you do not enter the trap. You force the other person to sit with their own statement. When you do not respond, their words hang in the air, unvalidated, unchallenged. They have to confront their own position without your reaction to anchor it. You conserve energy. Every response costs energy. Every engagement drains you. Silence preserves your resources. You maintain frame. Frame is who controls the interaction. When you respond to every provocation, you let the other person set the frame. When you stay silent, you hold frame. You decide what deserves your attention. This is not about being rude. This is about being selective, about recognizing that most provocations do not deserve your voice. There are 3 types of silence: empty silence, reactive silence, strategic silence. Empty silence is when you have nothing to say. You are passive, disengaged, checked out. This is not powerful. This is absence. Reactive silence is when you are silent because you are afraid. You want to respond, but you do not have the courage. You stay quiet out of fear. This is not powerful. This is cowardice. Strategic silence is when you could respond but choose not to. You have the words, you have the position. But you recognize that engagement is not worth it. This is powerful. This is control. Most men confuse these. They stay silent out of fear and call it strategy. Or they disengage out of apathy and call it discipline. But true strategic silence is conscious, intentional, selective. You are not avoiding conflict. You are choosing not to enter conflicts that do not serve you. And most conflicts do not serve you. Example 1. Someone insults you in a group setting. Everyone looks at you, waiting for your response. You say nothing. You do not defend. You do not counter. You just look at them, calm, unbothered. Then you look away. The insult loses power because you did not validate it with a response. You stayed silent. You won. Example 2. You are in a meeting. Someone challenges your idea with weak logic. Your instinct is to dismantle their argument, to prove them wrong. Instead, you stay silent. You let their weak argument sit. Other people notice the flaws. You do not need to say anything. Your silence makes the point stronger than any rebuttal could. You stayed silent. You won. Example 3. Someone asks you a loaded question, designed to trap you. No matter how you answer, it will be used against you, so you do not answer. You say, "I am not answering that." Or you say nothing at all. You refuse to engage with the trap. You stayed silent. You won. Strategic silence is not about never speaking. It is about speaking only when it adds value. Most men talk too much. They fill every gap. They respond to every question. They engage with every provocation. This makes them predictable, easy to manipulate, easy to drain. When you practice strategic silence, you become selective. You speak when it matters. You stay silent when it does not. And this creates a different presence. People do not know what you are thinking. They cannot predict your response. They cannot bait you into reaction. This makes you dangerous, because unpredictability is power. When people cannot control your output, they cannot control you. Here is what you do not say. You do not say, "I do not want to talk about this." That is still engagement. That is explaining your silence. Here is what you do. You just stay silent. You do not fill the gap. You let the silence sit. If someone pushes, you say, "I have nothing to say on that." Or you say nothing at all. You do not explain. You do not justify. You just hold the silence. Try this. For the next 7 days, practice strategic silence in conversations. When someone asks you a question you do not want to answer, do not answer. Just stay silent. Or say, "I am not discussing that." When someone tries to provoke you, do not engage. Just look at them. Say nothing. Let the provocation fall flat. When you are in a group and everyone is talking, practice staying silent. Do not fill the space, just observe. Listen. Hold your position. Notice how people react. Some will be uncomfortable, some will push harder, some will respect you more. Pay attention to who does what. That tells you who respects boundaries and who does not. And it tells you who deserves your words and who does not. Silence creates space. And in that space, people reveal themselves. When you stop filling gaps with words, others fill them instead. And what they fill them with tells you everything you need to know. Some people will respect your silence. They will not push, they will move on. These are secure people. People who do not need you to perform for them. Some people will get uncomfortable. They will try to pull you back into conversation. They will ask you what is wrong. They need your engagement to feel comfortable. These are insecure people. They feed off your reactivity. Some people will get angry. They will accuse you of being distant, cold, uncooperative. They are used to controlling you through provocation. Your silence removes their leverage. These are manipulative people. They do not deserve your words. Strategic silence is a filter. It separates people who respect you from people who use you. And once you see the difference, you can act accordingly. Most men are afraid of silence. They think it makes them boring, irrelevant, forgettable. But the opposite is true. Men who talk constantly are forgettable. They are noise, background chatter, easy to tune out. Men who speak selectively are memorable. When they speak, people listen, because they know it matters. Silence creates weight. It makes your words valuable. It makes your presence commanding. You do not need to fill every moment with sound. You do not need to have an opinion on everything. You do not need to engage with every topic. You just need to be present, grounded, still. And when you do speak, you speak with precision. with intention, with impact. That is power. Strategic silence is not about withholding. It is about discernment. You are not refusing to communicate. You are refusing to communicate wastefully. You are not avoiding engagement. You are avoiding low-value engagement. You are not being cold. You are being selective. And selectivity is strength, because it means you control the output. You decide what gets your energy. You decide what deserves your voice. And when you make that decision consciously, you stop being drained by meaningless conversations, pointless arguments, empty provocations. You preserve your energy for what matters, and you become a force that cannot be moved by noise. Silence is not the absence of power. Silence is the presence of control. When you can sit in a room full of chaos and remain still, you own the room. When you can be provoked and stay silent, you own the interaction. When you can withhold your response and feel no discomfort, you own yourself. And that ownership is what makes you untouchable. Because no one can pull you into their chaos, no one can bait you into reaction, no one can force you to speak. You speak when you choose, you engage when you choose, you react when you choose, and most of the time you choose silence. Because silence is power, and power does not need to announce itself. Chapter 6. The Detachment Principle. Carlos is at a family gathering. His uncle starts talking about his life choices, his career, his relationship status, his decisions. The tone is critical, judgmental, laced with disapproval. In the past, Carlos would have felt the sting, the need to defend himself, to justify his choices, to prove his worth, but not anymore. Carlos listens. He does not argue, he does not explain, he does not feel the emotional pull. His uncle is speaking, but Carlos is not absorbing, he is observing. He sees his uncle's insecurity, the need to criticize others, to feel superior, the pattern, the projection. Carlos feels nothing, no anger, no hurt, no defensiveness. When his uncle finishes, Carlos says, "Interesting perspective." Then he walks away. His uncle looks confused. He was expecting a fight. He got indifference instead. Carlos is not cold. He is detached, and detachment is untouchable. Detachment is the ability to observe without absorbing, to witness without internalizing, to be present without being affected. This is not apathy. Apathy is when you do not care about anything, when you are checked out, disengaged, numb. Detachment is different. You care selectively. You engage intentionally. But you do not let external events control your internal state. You remain separate, observing, unshaken. Most men do not have this capacity. They are emotionally porous. Everything gets in. Every comment, every criticism, every rejection. They take everything personally. They internalize everything. They let the external world dictate their internal reality. This makes them fragile, reactive, easy to destabilize. Detachment is the opposite. It is emotional impermeability. You let nothing in unless you choose to let it in. Someone criticizes you. You hear it. You consider it. But you do not absorb it. You stay separate. Someone rejects you. You acknowledge it. You process it. But you do not internalize it. You stay intact. Someone tries to provoke you. You observe it. You recognize the game. But you do not engage. You stay detached. This is not avoidance. This is sovereignty. Detachment operates on a simple principle. Other people's opinions are not your reality. Someone thinks you are failing. That does not make it true. Someone thinks you are wrong. That does not make it true. Someone thinks you should live differently. That does not make it true. Their perception is theirs, not yours. Most men collapse this distinction. They let other people's perceptions become their truth. They internalize criticism. They absorb judgment. They reshape themselves based on external feedback. This is weakness. Because now you are being defined by people who do not live your life, who do not understand your context, who do not carry your consequences. Detachment means you hold the line between their perception and your reality. You hear what they say, but you do not let it become what you believe. You stay anchored in your own assessment, your own values, your own truth, and you let their opinions exist without internalizing them. Example 1. Someone tells you that you are not good enough. You hear it. You consider whether there is truth in it. You decide there is not. You let the statement go. You do not carry it. You do not internalize it. You stay detached. Example 2. Someone criticizes your work. You listen. You evaluate the feedback. You extract what is useful. You discard what is not. You do not absorb the emotional charge. You do not take it personally. You stay detached. Example 3. Someone withdraws approval. They are disappointed in you. You notice it. You do not scramble to win them back. You do not change yourself to regain their validation. You stay anchored in your own assessment. You stay detached. Detachment requires a stable internal reference point. Most men do not have this. Their sense of self is unstable. It shifts based on external feedback. When people approve, they feel good. When people disapprove, they feel bad. This is external referencing, and it is a trap. Because external feedback is inconsistent. People change their minds. They project their insecurities. They judge based on incomplete information. If you let that feedback define you, you will never be stable. You will always be at the mercy of other people's moods, opinions, judgments. Detachment means you build an internal reference point, a stable core that does not shift based on external input. You know who you are. You know what you value. You know what you are building. And that knowing is not contingent on other people seeing it, agreeing with it, validating it. You reference yourself, not them. This is not arrogance. This is self-trust. And it is the foundation of detachment. Here is what you do not do. You do not defend yourself against every criticism. You do not explain yourself to every skeptic. You do not seek validation from every doubter. Those are the behaviors of someone who is still externally referenced, someone who needs others to see them accurately in order to feel secure. Here is what you do. You listen. You evaluate. You decide what is worth integrating, and you discard the rest. You do not argue with people who misunderstand you. You let them misunderstand. You do not convince people who doubt you. You let them doubt. You do not seek approval from people who disapprove. You let them disapprove. You stay detached, anchored in your own reality, unmoved by theirs. Try this. For the next 7 days, practice non-absorption. Every time someone offers an opinion about you, pause. Do not react. Do not internalize. Ask yourself, is this true? Is this useful? Does this align with my own assessment? If yes, integrate it. If no, discard it. Do not carry it. Do not replay it. Do not let it shape how you see yourself. Just observe it, consider it, and let it go. Notice how much lighter you feel. How much less reactive you are. How much more stable you become. Because you are no longer carrying other people's perceptions. You are carrying your own truth. And that is infinitely lighter. Detachment does not mean you do not listen to feedback. It means you listen selectively. You evaluate the source. Is this person qualified to give feedback on this area? Do they understand the context? Do they have your best interest in mind? If yes, you consider their input seriously. You integrate what is useful. If no, you discard it. You do not waste energy defending against it. You just let it go. This is discernment, not defensiveness. Most men defend against all criticism because they have not developed discernment. They treat all feedback as equally valid or equally threatening. Detachment allows you to separate signal from noise, to take what serves you and discard what does not, without emotional charge, without reactivity, without collapse. The detachment principle is what allows you to operate in hostile environments without being destabilized. You can be surrounded by critics and stay grounded. You can be rejected and stay intact. You can be misunderstood and stay calm. Because none of it touches your core. None of it defines you. None of it controls you. You observe it, you process it, you let it pass. And you remain unmoved. This is not coldness. This is mastery. Because it means you are no longer at the mercy of external conditions. You are self-referencing, self-regulating, self-contained, and that makes you untouchable. Most men spend their entire lives trying to manage other people's perceptions, trying to win approval, trying to avoid criticism. They exhaust themselves performing, defending, explaining, and they never feel secure. Because security based on external validation is not security, it is dependency. Detachment breaks that dependency. It frees you from the need to be seen accurately, to be understood completely, to be approved universally. You stop performing for external audiences. You stop defending against external judgments. You just exist, grounded in your own reality, anchored in your own truth, and you let everyone else think whatever they want. Because their thoughts do not define you, your actions do. Detachment is not the final stage, but it is the necessary foundation for everything that follows. Without detachment, you cannot build unshakable presence. You cannot develop cold authority. You cannot become untouchable. But with detachment, you can weather any storm, withstand any criticism, endure any rejection, because nothing external moves you. Nothing external defines you. Nothing external controls you. You are sovereign, self-contained, detached, and detachment is freedom. Chapter 7. Pressure Immunity. Malik is in a high-stakes negotiation. The other side is aggressive, pushy. They are trying to force a decision. They are using urgency, scarcity, emotional leverage. They say, "This offer expires today. You need to decide now. If you walk away, you lose everything." Malik feels the pressure. His body wants to react, to decide quickly, to avoid the discomfort of walking away. But he does not move. He looks at them, calm, unfazed. He says, "I am not making a decision under pressure. I will take the time I need." If the offer expires, it expires. The room goes quiet. They were not expecting that. They try again. They push harder. They increase the urgency. They appeal to his fear of missing out. Malik does not flinch. He says, "I am done with this conversation." Then he stands up, and he walks out. 2 days later, they call him. The offer is still available, and the terms have improved. This is pressure immunity, and it is what separates strong men from weak men. Pressure is a control mechanism. It is designed to make you act before you think, to override your logic with urgency, to force compliance through discomfort. Most men collapse under pressure. They make bad decisions. They agree to things they do not want. They compromise themselves to relieve the tension. This is because they have not built pressure immunity. They cannot tolerate the discomfort of sitting in high-stakes uncertainty. So they react, they rush, they collapse, and they lose. Pressure immunity is the ability to sit in high-pressure situations without the need to relieve the tension through impulsive action. You feel the pressure, you acknowledge it, but you do not let it control your timeline, your decision, your behavior. You stay calm, you stay grounded, you hold your position, and you let the pressure exist without acting on it. This is not stubbornness, this is discipline, because pressure is temporary. It always passes. But decisions made under pressure often create permanent consequences. Weak men make permanent decisions to relieve temporary discomfort. Strong men endure temporary discomfort to make permanent gains. Pressure comes in different forms: time pressure, social pressure, emotional pressure, financial pressure. Time pressure is when someone creates artificial urgency, limited time offers, deadlines, countdowns. They want you to decide before you have time to think. Social pressure is when someone uses group dynamics to force compliance. Everyone else is doing it. You do not want to be left out. You do not want to look weak. Emotional pressure is when someone manipulates your feelings. Guilt, fear, obligation, they want you to act to relieve the emotional discomfort. Financial pressure is when someone leverages scarcity, limited availability, rising costs, opportunity loss. They want you to act to avoid perceived loss. All of these are designed to override your rational decision-making, to force you into reactive mode, to make you act impulsively. And all of them can be neutralized with one skill: the ability to sit in discomfort without acting. Example 1. Someone gives you an ultimatum. Accept this deal now or lose it forever. You feel the pressure, the fear of missing out, the urgency. Instead of reacting, you pause. You say, if this is the only option, then I am walking away. You call their bluff. Most of the time, the urgency was fake. The offer comes back. You stayed immune. You won. Example 2. You are in a group. Everyone is agreeing to something you do not agree with. You feel the social pressure to conform, to go along, to avoid being the outlier. Instead of caving, you hold your position. You say, I am not doing that. You tolerate the discomfort. The group adjusts, or you leave. Either way, you stayed immune. You won. Example 3. Someone uses guilt to pressure you into doing something. They say if you really cared, you would do this. You feel the emotional manipulation, the pull to comply. Instead of reacting, you stay grounded. You say, I am not making decisions based on guilt. You remove the leverage. You stayed immune. You won. Pressure immunity is built through exposure. You cannot develop it by avoiding pressure. You develop it by sitting in pressure without collapsing. Start small. Practice sitting in low-stakes discomfort. Someone asks you to decide quickly. You say, I need time. Then you sit with their impatience. You do not rush to relieve their discomfort. Someone pushes you to agree. You say, I am not agreeing to that. Then you sit with the tension. You do not cave to make it go away. Someone tries to guilt you. You say, that does not work on me. Then you sit with their reaction. You do not apologize. You do not backtrack. Each time you do this, you build tolerance. You expand your capacity to sit in discomfort without acting. And over time, the pressure stops affecting you. You can sit in high-stakes situations and stay calm, because you have trained yourself to tolerate the discomfort. Here is what you do not do. You do not explain why you need time. You do not justify your refusal. You do not defend your position under pressure. Those are reactive behaviors. They signal that you are affected, that the pressure is working. Here is what you do. You state your position. I am not deciding now. I am not doing that. I need more time. Then you stop talking. You let the pressure sit. You do not fill the silence. You do not relieve their discomfort. You hold the line. You stay grounded. You let them sit with your refusal. And most of the time they cave, because they need you more than you need them. And your immunity proves it. Try this. For the next 14 days, practice refusing urgency. Every time someone tries to pressure you into a quick decision, refuse. Say, I am not deciding under pressure. I will take the time I need. Every time someone creates artificial scarcity, walk away. Do not engage with the tactic. Every time someone uses guilt or obligation, shut it down. Say, I am not acting on guilt. Then hold your ground. Notice what happens. Most of the time, the pressure was fake. The urgency was manufactured. The scarcity was artificial. And when you refuse to play the game loses power. You develop immunity. And immunity is freedom. Pressure immunity does not mean you never act quickly. It means you never act reactively. Sometimes fast decisions are necessary, but they are made from clarity. not panic. You assess quickly. You decide quickly. But you are not rushed. You are not pressured. You are in control. There is a massive difference between acting fast because the situation requires it and acting fast because you cannot tolerate the pressure. One is strategic. The other is collapse. Pressure immunity allows you to distinguish between the two, to act when necessary, and to refuse when someone is trying to manipulate you. Most men are controlled by pressure because they cannot tolerate discomfort. They need relief. They need resolution. They need the tension to go away. So they make bad deals. They agree to bad terms. They compromise themselves, all to relieve temporary discomfort. But that relief is expensive because the consequences last far longer than the discomfort. Pressure immunity means you are willing to sit in discomfort longer than the other person. You are willing to tolerate the tension. You are willing to walk away. And that willingness is leverage, because the person who can tolerate discomfort longer controls the negotiation, the relationship, the outcome. You do not need them to cave. You do not need them to agree. You are comfortable walking away. And that comfort is what makes you untouchable. Pressure is a test. It reveals who has control and who does not. When someone applies pressure and you collapse, you fail the test. You reveal that you can be controlled. When someone applies pressure and you stay grounded, you pass the test. You reveal that you cannot be controlled. And once people realize you cannot be controlled, they stop trying. They either respect your position or they leave. Either way, you win. Because you are no longer surrounded by people who try to manipulate you. You are surrounded by people who respect your boundaries. And that is the environment where you thrive. Pressure immunity is not about being difficult. It is about being unmovable. You are not refusing for the sake of refusing. You are refusing because the pressure is designed to override your judgment. You are not resisting to prove a point. You are resisting to protect your decision-making. You are not being stubborn, you are being sovereign. And sovereignty requires the ability to sit in discomfort without needing relief. Most men cannot do this. They need the tension to go away. They need the situation resolved. They need comfort. You do not. You are comfortable in discomfort. You are calm under pressure. You are grounded in uncertainty. And that makes you dangerous. Because no one can force you to act. No one can rush you. No one can manipulate you through urgency. You move when you decide to move, not when they pressure you to move. And that control is absolute power. Chapter 8. Cold Observation. Trevor is at a party. Someone is telling a story, embellishing, exaggerating, seeking validation from the group. Everyone is nodding, laughing, reacting, feeding the performance. Trevor is watching, not judging, not reacting, just observing. He notices the pattern, the need for attention, the performative energy. The way the storyteller scans the room for approval after every punchline. Trevor says nothing. He does not validate. He does not engage. He just watches. The storyteller notices. He looks at Trevor, waiting for a reaction. Trevor gives him nothing. Just a calm, neutral gaze. The storyteller falters, his energy drops. He finishes the story quickly. The group moves on. Later, someone asks Trevor why he was so quiet. Trevor says, "I was just listening." But he was not just listening. He was observing. An observation without reaction is power. Cold observation is the ability to watch without emotional involvement. To see what is happening without needing to participate, to witness without being pulled in. Most men cannot do this. They are always involved, always reacting, always performing. Someone tells a joke, they laugh. Someone makes a statement, they agree or disagree. Someone seeks validation, they provide it. They are never neutral, they are always engaged. This makes them predictable, easy to read, easy to manipulate. Cold observation is different. You are present, but you are not involved. You watch, you listen, you process, but you do not react. You stay separate, detached, unmoved, and this separation gives you clarity. Because when you are not emotionally involved, you see things others miss. You see the patterns, the manipulations, the insecurities, the games. You see what people are actually doing, not what they say they are doing. And that clarity is leverage. Cold observation requires emotional neutrality. Most men do not have this. They personalize everything. They take things personally. They absorb the emotional charge of every interaction. Someone criticizes them, they feel attacked. Someone praises them, they feel validated. Someone ignores them, they feel rejected. They are emotionally reactive to everything, and that reactivity blinds them. Cold observation means you remove the emotional charge. You do not take things personally. You do not assign meaning based on how it makes you feel. You just observe what is happening, without interpretation, without judgment, without reaction. This is not apathy. You are fully aware, fully present, but you are not emotionally invested in the outcome. You are watching a game, not playing it. And when you watch instead of play, you see the game clearly. You see the strategies, the weaknesses, the leverage points. You see what others cannot see because they are too busy reacting. Example 1. You are in a meeting. Someone is presenting an idea. They are confident, persuasive. But you are observing. You notice the holes in their logic, the lack of data, the emotional appeal masking weak reasoning. Everyone else is nodding. You say nothing. You just observe. Later, when the decision is made, you speak. You point out the flaws, calmly, precisely. You stayed cold. You saw what others missed. You won. Example 2. You are in a social setting. Someone is dominating the conversation, seeking attention. You observe. You notice they interrupt. They redirect every topic back to themselves. They need validation. Everyone else is feeding it. You do not. You just watch. Later, someone asks you what you thought of that person. You say, insecure. They are surprised, but you saw it because you were observing, not reacting. Example 3. You are in a conflict. The other person is escalating, raising their voice, using emotional language. You stay calm. You observe. You notice they are trying to provoke you, to pull you into reactivity. You do not engage. You just watch. They exhaust themselves. You stayed cold. You won. Cold observation is not passive. It is active neutrality. You are fully engaged in the observation process. But you are not emotionally hooked. You are watching for patterns, for inconsistencies, for tells. People reveal themselves constantly, through their words, their body language, their reactions, but most people miss it because they are too busy reacting themselves. When you observe coldly, you catch everything. You see when someone is lying. You see when someone is insecure. You see when someone is manipulating, and you see it without needing to call it out. Without needing to react, you just file the information, and you use it when necessary. This is strategic intelligence, and it is only possible when you are not emotionally involved. Here is what you do not do. You do not observe and then immediately share your observations. That is reaction. That is needing validation for what you saw. You do not observe and judge out loud. That is emotional involvement. That is needing to feel superior. You do not observe and then explain what you notice to prove you are smart. That is insecurity. Here is what you do. You observe, you process, you file the information, and you stay silent. You do not need to prove you saw it. You do not need to explain it. You just know it, and you use it when it serves you, not when your ego wants recognition. Try this. For the next 7 days, practice cold observation in social settings. Go to a gathering, a meeting, a conversation, and just observe. Do not participate unless necessary. Do not react. Do not validate. Just watch. Notice who seeks attention, who deflects, who dominates, who submits, who manipulates. Notice the dynamics, the power structures, the insecurities. Do not judge, just observe, take mental notes, see what others miss. Then later, review what you observed. Ask yourself, what did I see that others did not? What patterns emerged? What can I learn from this? Over time, you will develop a sharper eye. You will see things instantly that used to take you hours to notice, and that sharpness is power. Cold observation also applies to yourself. Most men do not observe themselves. They are too close, too emotionally involved. They react, they justify, they defend, but they do not observe. Cold self-observation means you watch yourself the way you would watch a stranger. You notice your patterns, your triggers, your weaknesses. You do not judge them. You do not shame yourself. You just observe. You notice when you get defensive. You notice when you seek validation. You notice when you collapse under pressure. And you file that information. You use it to improve, to adjust, to strengthen. This is how you build mastery, not by denying your weaknesses, but by observing them coldly and addressing them strategically. Most men are afraid of cold observation because it feels detached, unfeeling, robotic. But it is not. It is clarity. When you remove emotional reactivity, you do not become cold. You become clear. You see things as they are, not as you want them to be, not as you fear them to be, just as they are. And that clarity allows you to act with precision, to respond strategically, to move effectively. You are not detached from reality. You are detached from emotional distortion. And that detachment is what makes you dangerous. Cold observation is what separates leaders from followers, winners from losers, strong men from weak men. Followers react, leaders observe, losers personalize, winners analyze. Weak men are emotionally hooked. Strong men are emotionally detached. This does not mean you do not care. It means you care selectively. You care about what matters. And you observe the rest without involvement. You do not waste energy reacting to everything. You preserve your energy for strategic action. You do not get pulled into every conflict. You observe which conflicts are worth entering. You do not engage with every provocation. You observe which provocations reveal useful information, and that selectivity is power. Cold observation is not the final skill, but it is the necessary foundation for everything that follows. Without it, you cannot build strategic presence. You cannot develop untouchable authority. You cannot become sovereign. But with it, you see clearly. You act precisely. You move effectively. You are no longer at the mercy of emotional reactivity. You are operating from cold clarity, and clarity is the ultimate weapon. Chapter 9. The Authority Frame. Nathan walks into a room. He does not announce himself. He does not perform. He does not seek attention. But people notice. There is something about his presence, the way he moves, the way he holds himself, the way he does not react to the noise around him. Someone tries to provoke him, a joke at his expense. The room watches, waiting for his reaction. Nathan does not laugh. He does not defend. He does not engage. He just looks at the person, calm, unbothered. Then he looks away. The room shifts. The person who tried to provoke him feels it. They just lost frame. Nathan did not say a word, but he communicated everything. This is authority frame, and it is built through non-reactivity. Frame is who controls the interaction, whose reality dominates, whose rules govern the space. Most men do not understand frame. They think authority comes from titles, from being the loudest, from dominating conversations. But that is not authority. That is performance. Real authority is quiet. It does not need to announce itself. It does not need to prove itself. It just is. And it is communicated through one thing: Non-reactivity. When you react to someone, you enter their frame, you validate their provocation, you give them control. When you do not react, you hold frame, you refuse to play the game, you force them to adjust to you. This is the authority frame, and it is the most powerful position you can hold. Frame is tested constantly. People will challenge you, provoke you, push your buttons. Not because they are malicious, but because they are testing whether you hold frame or enter theirs. If you react, you fail the test. You reveal that you can be moved, that you can be controlled, that you are not anchored. If you do not react, you pass the test. You reveal that you cannot be moved, that you cannot be controlled, that you are grounded. And once people realize you hold frame, they stop testing you. They either respect your frame or they leave. Either way, you win, because you are no longer surrounded by people who try to destabilize you. You are surrounded by people who respect your authority. Authority frame is not about dominance. It is about sovereignty. Dominance is when you force others to submit. You impose your will. You control through aggression. Sovereignty is when you do not need to force anything. You simply do not react. And that non-reactivity makes others adjust to you. You are not fighting for control. You are simply not giving it away. And that refusal is what creates authority. Most men try to dominate. They raise their voice, they interrupt, they assert, they compete. But that is weakness, because it reveals they need to prove something. Sovereign men do not need to prove anything. They are anchored, grounded, unmoved, and that stillness is what commands respect. Example 1. You are in a conversation. Someone interrupts you. Your instinct is to talk over them, to assert yourself, to reclaim the floor. Instead, you stop talking. You let them finish. You do not react. You just wait. When they are done, you do not continue where you left off. You say something else entirely. You held frame. They entered yours. You won. Example 2. Someone insults you publicly. The room is watching. Your instinct is to fire back, to defend, to put them in their place. Instead, you do nothing. You look at them, calm, unbothered. Then you continue the conversation as if they did not speak. You held frame. They lost it. You won. Example 3. You are in a negotiation. The other side is aggressive. They are trying to pressure you, to rush you, to make you uncomfortable. Instead of reacting, you stay calm. You do not rush. You do not justify. You just hold your position. They escalate. You stay still. Eventually, they adjust to your pace. You held frame. You won. Holding frame requires internal stability. Most men do not have this. They are internally reactive, unstable, fragile. So when someone pushes them, they collapse. They enter the other person's frame. They lose control. Internal stability is built through everything you have learned so far. The pause protocol, emotional containment, strategic silence, detachment, pressure immunity, cold observation. All of these skills build the foundation, and that foundation is what allows you to hold frame under pressure. You do not react because you are grounded. You do not collapse because you are stable. You do not engage because you are sovereign. And that sovereignty is what creates authority. Here is what you do not do. You do not announce that you are holding frame. You do not say, "I am not playing this game." That is still engagement. You do not explain why you are not reacting. That is justification. That is weakness. You do not try to dominate to prove you are in control. That is insecurity. Here is what you do. You stay calm. You stay grounded. You stay silent. You let your non-reactivity speak. You let your stillness create the shift. You do not need to say anything. Your presence does the work. Try this. For the next 14 days, practice holding frame in every interaction. When someone tries to provoke you, do not react. Just observe. Stay calm. Let the provocation fall flat. When someone interrupts you, do not fight for the floor. Just stop talking. Let them finish. Then redirect the conversation on your terms. When someone tries to pressure you, do not rush. Do not justify. Just hold your position. Let them adjust to you. Notice how the dynamic shifts. Notice how people start treating you differently. Notice how respect increases without you demanding it. This is the authority frame, and it is built through non-reactivity. Most men lose frame because they need to be right. They need to win every argument. They need to have the last word. But that need reveals insecurity. It reveals that they are externally validated, that they need others to acknowledge their position in order to feel secure. Authority frame does not need acknowledgement. You know your position. You do not need others to validate it. Someone disagrees with you. You let them. You do not argue. You do not convince. You just hold your position. Someone challenges you. You do not defend. You just stay grounded. Someone tries to make you reactive. You do not engage. You just stay still. And that stillness is what creates authority, because it reveals that you are not controlled by external validation. You are self-referencing, self-contained, sovereign. Authority frame is not about controlling others. It is about not being controlled. You do not need them to submit. You just need to stay grounded. You do not need them to agree. You just need to stay anchored. You do not need them to respect you. You just need to respect yourself enough not to collapse. And when you do that, respect comes naturally, because people recognize strength. They recognize stability. They recognize sovereignty, and they either align with it or they leave. Either way, you hold frame. Frame is fragile when it is built on performance, when you need to assert, when you need to dominate, when you need to prove. But frame is unbreakable when it is built on non-reactivity, when you do not need to assert, when you do not need to dominate, when you do not need to prove. You just are. Grounded, still, sovereign. And that presence is what commands authority, not through force, not through performance, not through dominance, but through the quiet refusal to be moved. The authority frame is the culmination of everything you have built: the pause, the containment, the silence, the detachment, the immunity, the observation. All of it leads here, to a presence that does not need to announce itself, to an authority that does not need to prove itself. You walk into a room and people feel it, not because you performed, but because you are grounded. You speak and people listen, not because you dominated, but because you are calm. You hold your position and people adjust, not because you forced them, but because you did not collapse. This is the authority frame, and it is untouchable, because no one can take it from you. No one can shake it. No one can move it. You are sovereign, and sovereignty is absolute power. Chapter 10. The untouchable identity Victor used to be reactive. Every criticism hit him. Every rejection destabilized him. Every challenge pulled him into defense. He spent years trying to prove himself, to win approval, to be seen as strong, as capable, as worthy. But the more he tried, the weaker he felt, because his identity was built on external validation, and external validation is unstable. Then something shifted. He stopped defending. He stopped explaining. He stopped reacting. He built a new foundation, one that did not require anyone's approval, one that did not collapse under pressure, one that could not be shaken by external events. He became untouchable, not because he stopped caring, but because he stopped letting external input define him. Now someone criticizes him. He does not react. He evaluates. He discards what is not useful. He integrates what is. Someone rejects him. He does not collapse. He stays grounded. He moves forward. Someone tries to provoke him. He does not engage. He observes. He stays still. Nothing moves him. Nothing destabilizes him. Nothing controls him. He is untouchable. And that is the final stage. The untouchable identity is not built on achievement. It is not built on status. It is not built on what others think of you. It is built on one thing: the refusal to let external events define your internal reality. Most men build their identity externally. They derive their sense of self from accomplishments, relationships, approval, recognition. And when those things are taken away, they collapse. Because their identity was conditional, fragile, dependent. The untouchable identity is different. It is internally sourced. It does not require external validation. It does not collapse when challenged. It does not shift when tested. You know who you are, not because someone told you, but because you decided. And that decision is not negotiable. The untouchable identity is built on 3 pillars: self-definition, self-regulation, self-sufficiency. Self-definition means you define yourself, not others. You decide what you value, what you stand for, what you will tolerate, what you will not. You do not wait for external feedback to know if you are on the right path. You reference yourself. You do not need approval to feel secure. You do not need recognition to feel worthy. You do not need validation to feel confident. You are self-defined, and that definition is stable. Self-regulation means you control your internal state. You do not let external events dictate your emotions, your reactions, your behavior. Someone provokes you. You regulate. Someone pressures you. You stay calm. Someone criticizes you. You stay grounded. You are not at the mercy of external conditions. You are self-regulated. And that regulation is power. Self-sufficiency means you do not need anything from anyone to remain intact. You do not need their approval, their validation, their agreement. You are complete on your own, self-contained, self-sustained. This does not mean you isolate. It means you engage from a position of sufficiency, not need. You do not enter relationships to fill a void. You enter them to share abundance. And that sufficiency makes you untouchable. Example 1. You lose a job. Most men collapse. Their identity was tied to the title, the status, the external marker of success. You do not collapse. Because your identity is not your job. Your identity is how you regulate under pressure, how you move forward, how you rebuild. You stay intact. You are untouchable. Example 2. A relationship ends. Most men fall apart. Their identity was tied to being needed, being validated, being chosen. You do not fall apart. Because your identity is not the relationship. Your identity is your ability to stay grounded through loss, to process without collapsing, to move forward without needing closure. You stay intact. You are untouchable. Example 3. Someone publicly disrespects you. Most men react. Their identity is tied to how others see them, to reputation, to external perception. You do not react, because your identity is not what others think. Your identity is your refusal to let external opinion destabilize you. You stay intact. You are untouchable. The untouchable identity does not mean nothing affects you. It means nothing controls you. You feel disappointment, but it does not collapse you. You feel anger, but it does not control you. You feel rejection, but it does not define you. You feel everything, but you remain separate, observing, processing, regulating, and that separation is what makes you untouchable. Most men confuse emotional numbness with strength. They think being untouchable means feeling nothing. But that is not strength. That is avoidance. True strength is feeling everything and staying grounded, experiencing the full range of human emotion without being controlled by it. You are not detached from emotion. You are detached from emotional reactivity. And that detachment is mastery. Here is what you do not do. You do not prove your worth to people who question it. You do not defend your identity to people who misunderstand it. You do not seek validation from people who withhold it. Those are the behaviors of someone whose identity is still externally sourced. Here is what you do. You stay anchored in your own assessment. You stay grounded in your own values. You stay sovereign in your own reality. You do not need them to see you accurately. You see yourself accurately. And that is enough. Try this. For the next 30 days, practice self-sourcing. Every time you feel the need for external validation, pause. Ask yourself, why do I need this person to validate me? What am I trying to prove? Then answer the question yourself. Validate yourself. Give yourself the acknowledgement you were seeking externally. Every time you feel destabilized by external events, pause. Ask yourself, what part of my identity is threatened right now? Why am I letting this external event define my internal state? Then re-anchor. Remind yourself who you are, what you value, what you stand for, independent of external circumstances. Over time, you will stop looking outward for stability. You will start sourcing it internally. And that shift is what creates the untouchable identity. The untouchable identity is not arrogance. Arrogance is insecurity masked as confidence. It is the need to prove superiority, to dominate, to be seen as better. The untouchable identity does not need to prove anything. It does not need to dominate. It does not need to be seen as better. It just is, grounded, stable, self-contained. You do not need to announce your strength. Your strength speaks through your non-reactivity. You do not need to assert your authority. Your authority is communicated through your calm. You do not need to prove you are untouchable. Your refusal to collapse proves it. Most men spend their entire lives building an identity that can be taken away. A job, a relationship, a status, a reputation. And when it is taken away, they collapse. Because they built on sand. The untouchable identity is built on stone, on internal stability, on self-sourced worth, on non-reactive presence. And that foundation cannot be shaken. Because it does not depend on external conditions. You can lose everything external and remain intact. Because your identity is not tied to what you have. It is tied to how you regulate, how you respond, how you move, and that cannot be taken from you. The untouchable identity is the final stage. It is the culmination of everything you have built. The pause protocol taught you to interrupt reactivity. Emotional containment taught you to process without discharge. Strategic silence taught you to withhold engagement. The detachment principle taught you to observe without absorbing. Pressure immunity taught you to sit in discomfort without collapsing. Cold observation taught you to see clearly without emotional distortion. The authority frame taught you to hold your position without needing validation. And now, the untouchable identity integrates all of it into one coherent whole. You are non-reactive, self-regulated, self-sufficient, grounded, sovereign. Nothing outside you moves you without permission. And that is absolute power. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Because now you have the foundation, the tools, the discipline. Now you live it. You practice it. You embody it. Every day, every interaction, every challenge. You pause instead of react. You contain instead of discharge. You observe instead of absorb. You hold frame instead of collapse. And over time, it becomes automatic. It becomes who you are. Not a technique, not a strategy, but an identity, the untouchable identity. You are not the man you were when you started this book. You are not reactive. You are not fragile. You are not controlled by external forces. You are grounded, regulated, sovereign. You are untouchable, and nothing can take that from you. Not criticism, not rejection, not pressure, not loss. Because your identity is not built on what you have. It is built on who you are, and who you are is unchangeable. You are the man who stays calm when others panic, the man who stays grounded when others collapse, the man who stays silent when others react. You are the man nothing moves. You are untouchable. Conclusion. You started this audiobook as a reactive man, controlled by impulse, destabilized by pressure, moved by external forces. You are not that man anymore. You now understand the mechanism, the impulse loop, the collapse point, the pressure dynamics, the frame tests. You now have the tools, the pause protocol, emotional containment, strategic silence, detachment, pressure immunity, cold observation, authority frame, and you now have the identity, the untouchable identity. Self-defined, self-regulated, self-sufficient. This is not theory, this is not philosophy, this is an operating system, and you have installed it. The world will continue to test you, people will provoke you, situations will pressure you, life will challenge you. But you are no longer at the mercy of these tests. You have the discipline, the structure, the containment. You will feel the impulse, you will feel the pressure, you will feel the activation. But you will not act on it. You will pause, you will regulate, you will stay grounded, and that refusal to collapse is what separates you from everyone else. Most men will never do this work. They will remain reactive, fragile, controlled. They will react to every provocation. They will collapse under every pressure. They will leak in every interaction, and they will wonder why they feel powerless, why people do not respect them, why they cannot build anything stable. You are not most men. You built the foundation, you installed the system, you became untouchable, and now you operate from a position of absolute control. Not over others, but over yourself. And self-control is the only control that matters. This is not the end. This is the standard. This is how you live now, every day, every interaction, every challenge. You pause instead of react. You contain instead of discharge. You observe instead of absorb. You hold frame. You hold silence. You hold sovereignty. And nothing moves you without permission. You are untouchable. Not because you are cold, but because you are controlled. Not because you do not feel, but because you regulate what you feel. Not because you avoid pressure, but because you are immune to it. You are the man who stays calm when the room is burning. The man who stays silent when everyone is shouting. The man who stays grounded when everything is shifting. You are the man nothing moves. And that is power. Absolute, unshakable, untouchable. Now go live it. If this audiobook has brought you clarity, strength, or peace, consider supporting the channel so more people can find this message. Please like this audio and subscribe. Your support helps this work reach those who feel overwhelmed, anxious, or unprotected, and gives them a path back to calm, confidence, and emotional freedom. Thank you for listening. Stay grounded. Stay wise. You are the anchor in every storm.